Welcome to the Great Talkability podcast with your boy, Darius Johnson, aka Darius the Great. That's right. I'm doing a podcast now. And I could not be more excited to get this underway because when I thought of doing this, I was just like, yeah, it just makes sense. It just makes too much sense. I have way too much to say that I just can't fit into, short videos. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, just go ahead, do a podcast of me just rambling, talking about all things pop culture, right? From movies to TV to, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, all that good stuff, video games as well. I mean, like, I get the name Great Talkability. It's a pun on with great power comes great responsibility because I'm just that much of a nerd, But yeah, we're going to get this underway today. We're going to start doing this. I don't know how frequently I'm going to be dropping these episodes, but at least once a week, you're going to get one of these episodes, man. And today, we're going to be talking about SAG-AFTRA and the WGA strike, right? We're going to be talking about Secret Invasion. I have a whole lot to say about the Secret Invasion finale. That's probably the biggest reason I decided to do this, that finale. I'm just like, I have to talk about this with someone, even if it's just me talking into a mic, looking at a camera, I have to do this, right? I'm also going to be talking about a news that broke fairly recently before I recorded this, and that is the Lando show has new writers, right? And it's actually happening. I did not believe or think for a moment that Lando's show was actually happening. I thought that was just a thing that got lost in the nether realm, like I was not expecting that to go on, but it is. And then I'm ended off probably talking with some wrestling for all my wrestling fans out there. But yeah, welcome again to Great Talkability, and let's get this underway with just talking about the SAG-AFTRA and the WGA strikes going on right now. Just sort of giving my position on it, my stance on it. Obviously, I stand in complete solidarity with both the unions, right? I mean, as someone who is an aspiring writer, like I have some scripts that they're being cooked right now. Like I'm cooking them. They're in the oven, right? Obviously, I've been paying attention to the strike for the writers as well, just because that's likely going to impact me in the future, right? And then when it comes to the SAG strike, obviously, if such a time comes where I am lucky enough to become an actor, like that's definitely something that's out there for me that I'm just like, I'm definitely considering that because I've always been told as, a child that I should be an actor because I was very performative, very dramatic as a child. So that's definitely something I'll look to probably pursue at some point, but like not as like a major thing. But again, that is something I want to pay attention to, right? And I am, once again, completely standing in solidarity with both the unions. Now, there's this whole thing that's been going on for like the last couple weeks in terms of the rules for influencers who are under the union agreement with the influencers for SAG, right? Where like they can't take, new deals from the studios that are being, struck, right? And they can't, promote their stuff because that is considered crossing the picket line, right? And then obviously there's the whole thing where if you're a non-union influencer and you work with these studios, then you're a scab, right? So there's also another wrinkle, which I'm sure you guys probably know, but just to give my 2 cents on it, where influencers who aren't a part of the union but want to be someday, right? Don't, promote any of the studio stuff. Don't take deals from them because then you'll be banned from ever joining SAG in the future, right? Now, that has a lot of people really confused as to, okay, well, if I'm just, let's say I'm just talking about a movie that came out, right? I'm just, geeking out over it, or I'm just giving general thoughts on it. Is that considered promotion? And then would I be banned from joining SAG in the future? And from what I understand, and I did as much research as I could because they really were not as clear as they could have been. As long as you're not getting paid by the studios, right? If they're not paying you to promote their work and you're, a non-union influencer, in quotations, then you're fine. Just don't take deals from them, but you're good to talk about the stuff. Now, they do say you should refrain from doing so. It's just like, yeah, don't do it. Kind of try not to talk about it, but it's not like they're going to ban you just from talking about it type of thing, right? And that's where I was concerned about myself, because I had made a couple different TikToks. I did like a review of Oppenheimer and Barbie, and the thought did cross my mind. I was just like, does this count as promoting? Because like I didn't get paid to do this. I just went to the movie theater with my mom to see both of these, right? And I'm creating a TikTok about it. But I don't think that would count as promoting, as far as I can tell, as far as I know, as far as I understand. Because again, they have not been terribly clear with this whole thing, with the whole definitions of promotion and influencers and what you should and shouldn't do. Like, there are some YouTube channels who, again, like, they're not even union affiliated, but like they have completely stopped posting, like reaction videos about certain companies' work, where like I don't want to say they're scared, but like they definitely don't want to get banned from joining SAG in the future. So that whole thing has been very interesting to watch. And then of course there's like the whole group of people who, even though, again, like if you're just talking about something from a studio because you genuinely enjoy it, you're not getting paid to do so, there are people who are attacking those people, calling them scabs, even though that's not what that is. A scab is you're literally taking deals from these studios while others can't do so. Like the union influencers can't do so, right? That's what being a scab is. But like people have it's become this whole like like I feel like it's a witch hunt type of thing almost, or like I don't know how else to describe it in terms of people just looking, like I envision certain people are like taking down names and like emailing them to SAG, like, oh, look what this person's posting, they're a scab, ban them. Like some people are just taking it too far, and I get it. It is a very serious issue. Like the actors, the writers, they are working hard. They're fighting for what they believe in, for what they should get, and that is, an honest living and not being replaced by AI. I get it, 100%. But I just think some of the people who are like trying to stand in solidarity with them are taking it just a bit too far. Just a bit too far for me. But as far as like my content goes, I'm still, posting videos about certain content, but it's not in like an active promotion style, right? But I've also taken the precaution to be very cautious of how I post it, like how much I post, what I do post, even though I will continue to post about some of the struck content, just not in a promotion factor, because I'm not getting paid by any of these people, any of these studios. I've never gotten paid by a studio. Like the closest I ever came to was like an independent like filmmaker. They had hired me to just, review their movie, but like I didn't get paid for it. It was just like a promotion thing. But yeah, I'm nowhere near big enough to be getting these type of like deals from studios to promote their work. I'm just not. So like I'm not even really worried about that. But yeah, again, I do 100% stand in solidarity with SAG and the WGA, because like some of these studios, man, like that thing that Bob Iger said about like their expectations are unrealistic. I'm just like, dude, shut up. Like you cannot be talking about unrealistic expectations with how much money you make. You can't. Like they're not even making a fraction of what you make. Okay, so like don't even go there. And then I believe I saw something the other day where like SAG, I believe it was SAG, they've reached out to the studios about coming back to the negotiating table, but the studios have no interest in doing so right now. So it's like, we are in this strike for, I believe, the rest of the year. Like, I don't think that this strike, like either strike, will be done before the end of the year. I completely believe that the writer's strike, that's going to go on longer than the actor's strike, because from everything that I've seen and read, the studios do not care about the writers right now. Their focus is on the actors, right? So I believe that the writer's strike, man, we might see that go until like, I don't know, maybe March of like next year. You know, I'm thinking it could be that long for the writers. For the actors, I definitely think it'll go to next year. Probably get it done around January. That's my prediction. This strike will probably over by January. But yeah, both unions, they are standing firm, and like I have to appreciate that, right? Like they're standing firm, even though they're going to be losing money, you know, because they're not working. And speaking of that, a few weeks ago, the studios, like a studio executive had came out and said that, you know, their tactic was to prolong this as long as they could until people started losing their homes and their cars and stuff. I was just like, that is some evil super villain type stuff right there, man. It just is. That's some Lex Luthor. That's some Kingpin type stuff, man. I'm just like, what do you... But, I mean, it's believable. It really is. It's believable. But it seems like that type of stuff, that type of rhetoric has only further emboldened both the unions to be like, no, we're going to stand firm until we get what we're owed. And again, I have to appreciate that. I have to commend that. I have to admire that, man. Because like me, I'm just saying, I don't know if I would have had that strength. You know, like obviously if I was in either union, I would fully, you know, support it and march and picket alongside them. Like I wouldn't, you know, scab type stuff. But like, I don't know if I would have reached a breaking point like very quickly. But it's all depending on the individual, how much they're making, how financially secure they are, even though eventually they're all going to start losing money. But, you know, I've seen some people say that like they want this to be done as over. They want, nice grammar. They want this to be done as quickly as possible. And that they hope that either side is not dragging this out. But it seems very much like the studios are the only ones dragging this out. But yeah, that's just like my general thoughts on the SAG stuff, the Writers Guild stuff. And I'm going to move on to talking about something else, something that's probably going to take up the bulk of this episode, and that is Secret Invasion. Now, this will have spoilers for the entire show, but especially the finale of Secret Invasion. Because, look, if you've been following me on TikTok, I have been posting reviews of pretty much each episode, right? Giving my thoughts on it. And from episodes 1 through 4, I'd say 1 through 4, I was a big fan of the show. I was like, dude, this might just be, if they stick the landing, this might just be my favorite MCU show. Because the MCU shows as a whole, they're not the best things. Like, they're not. Like, they all seem to have the same problem. Like, they all have their own individual problems, but like they all seem to have a problem of pacing, of like the writing, which I think suffers because of the pacing, because most of them are like 6 episodes, right? And that's just, it's a very arbitrary limit for no reason, right? And Secret Invasion was no different. They did the same thing with Secret Invasion. Last week, episode 5, when that came out, it was a very short episode. I was like, wait a minute. I feel like we've hit that mark in the MCU Disney Plus shows where the 6-episode format really hampers the show. Because it really felt in that last episode that they were just kind of rushing through it, that some of the writing was just not on par. Like, in that last episode, Sonya Fallsworth had, who, by the way, her actress, what's her name? Olivia Colman. Fantastic. Love her. I want to see her more stuff as the character. But when she had asked Fury last week, you know, why don't you bring in the Avengers? He was just like, oh, it's a personal fight, you know. We can't keep relying on superheroes to come and save us. And I was just like, first off, Nick, probably 2 episodes ago, when asked about the same thing by Talos, you said that you didn't want to bring them in because you didn't want them getting snatched, right? You didn't want the Avengers getting snatched and replaced. You didn't want that. That was your reason. But it seemed like they just completely forgot that last week. Second of all, we were on the brink of World War III, a nuclear war here, okay? A nuclear holocaust. Put your hubris aside about relying on superheroes and call them, okay? So like last week when they said that, I was just like, that ooh, I was just like, I feel like we've hit that point. We have. And I was very worried about the finale. And the finale, 100% completely proved me right. That finale was, without a shadow of a doubt, probably the worst MCU Disney Plus show finale I've ever seen. Ever. And I do mean ever. Like, before that, Hawkeye was like my worst, finale, just because of what they did to Kingpin. They turned Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin into a cartoon character just raging out and having all his like comic book level superpowers, which, like, on one hand, I get that, right? But all the substance of what made his performance as Kingpin great just got thrown away in favor of, look how strong he is now. But Secret Invasion just completely, it took the cake. It takes the cake as the worst MCU Disney Plus show finale of all time, because the show up until that point was really good. Like, it was really good. It was, a friend of mine was like, it was essentially like a sprinter, right? Doing really good. And then as soon as they hit the finish line, they just tear both their quads and just fall and tumble. And it was just, I was like, yeah, it's what it was. Like, even though episode 5 had me worried, I was just like, maybe they could still bring it back around and finish this right. They did no such thing. They did no such thing. They just completely tore both their quads and tumbled. And it was absolutely, like, I wanted to turn it off at some point, man. I was just like, I'm like, what has happened here? What has happened? What went on in that writer's room? What went on, behind the scenes, production wise, for it to end up like this? Because you had a scene with Nick Fury and Gravik, right, at the nuclear plant or whatever. And Gravik is just pouring out his heart and soul to Fury. And Fury, to an extent, was doing the same, right? Only for it to then become a CGI super fight where that wasn't even Fury, that was Gaia the whole time. So all that stuff, all that important character development and dialogue that Gravik had with Fury wasn't even Fury, it was Gaia. That was the first problem I had there. I was just like, oh, come on, really? Like, Fury should have been there to hear that stuff. And one of my friends pointed out when I said that, he was like, if you pay attention to the rest of the show, Fury and Gravik never shared a scene. They never shared like a scene together just talking. Like, there was the scene where Talos died. Obviously, Gravik was there. And then, of course, at like the very first episode when Gravik killed Maria Hill. But they'd never had like a one-on-one scene. And that was our chance to have that finally. And they just, nope, it was Gaia. And then proceeded to do exactly what She-Hulk made fun of the MCU shows for doing. And that is, okay, final episode, finale, right? Let's just throw all the CGI at it. Let's do all the CGI fight, all of this, man. Who cares about what the rest of the show was up to that point? Nah, we got to have big CGI fight at the end. She-Hulk made fun of that, right? And yet they still did it. They did it here. And I was just like, I can't believe they're doing this. Like, I wouldn't have minded, right, if it was a fight of Gaia and Gravik with just the 4 powers that they had before, right? They had collected, Cole Obsidian, Groot, the Frost Giant, and Extremis, right? Because it was like the Super Skrull in the comics, how they have the Fantastic Four's powers. Okay, if it was just that, fine. As long as Fury was actually there for that conversation, and Gaia just came in to kind of be his muscle. But they had Gaia and Gravik fight with all of the Avengers DNA. And not just all the Avengers DNA. The DNA of like Thanos and the Black Order as well. They had all that DNA. And it just became, I was just looking at it, I'm like, what am I watching? This is too much. This is too much. Like, it really is. Like, the show, this spy Cold War-esque thriller has lost its way to this. And like, a lot of people, when it comes to the MCU movies, tend to have a problem with, okay, third act, big CGI fight. Now, For a lot of the movies, I don't have a problem with that. But I have a problem with that in the shows, because the shows often, more so than the movies, take the initiative of having like a set tone, a set genre, but then they throw in the big CGI fight at the very end. Like Moon Knight, for example. Moon Knight, for episodes 1 through 5, was this dissociative identity, mental character study, right, with some like Indiana Jones-esque archaeology type stuff thrown in. And then the last episode, just, okay, big giant gator fighting big giant Khonshu skeleton man, Birdman, and then Moon Knight and Mr. Knight out here doing just all this comic booky CGI fighting, and I was just like, you just lost your way, man. You just lost your way. And Secret Invasion did the same thing. It'd be different if like all of that, if this entire show had all the superpowers, Super Scroll powers all throughout the show, right? Throughout all the different episodes, but it didn't. It's just in this episode. Like, yeah, we had a little bit of it like last episode, but this show had a certain tone and genre that they had maintained up until this point, and I was just like, it's just another MCU show now. It is. Like, that's what it is. And I have a big problem with the fact that now Gaia is the most overpowered character in the MCU. Like, she has all the Avengers DNA who, spilt blood in that last battle in Endgame, along with Thanos, along with the Black Order. She's the most overpowered character in the entire MCU, and it's not even close. Like, they would have to come out in like the Marvels or something and be like, well, her blood's actually, all that DNA, it's really diluted, so she's not as strong as all the people whose powers she actually has. If they say that, okay, fine, but that's still a lot of powers, but fine. But now I'm like, she has all this power. Like, she is like, when Kang comes along, just send in Gaia. She'll handle him. She'll handle all of his variants. You don't need the Avengers. You don't need anyone else. You have her. You have Gaia. Now, what they could do is, what they have to do, in fact, is what Thanos did to Hulk at the beginning of Infinity War, where he boxed that man. They had Hulk job out to Thanos, and it was so shocking. I still remember it. It was so shocking. They need to have Kang do that to Gaia in Kang Dynasty, right? Kang rolls up, Gaia, goes, all right, I got this. He just packs her up. 2-piece, no biscuit. That's what he has to do. That's what has to happen, because you've made this character this powerful. You have to do that. And then that's another wrinkle. I told you, I have so many problems with this finale. What point was there for Fury of giving Gaia that DNA to bring to Gravik? Because on one hand, yes, Gaia got all those powers, right? She got all those powers. She's souped up like that, right? But so did Gravik. Gravik had all those powers as well. What guarantee did Fury have that Gaia was going to win that fight? What guarantee? Because she could have easily have lost that fight. She could have been killed. And then you just let Gravik loose on the world, on the planet, with all those powers. I sat back and thought about that. I was just like, Fury, what was the point? There was no point of doing that. You gave the terrorist all those powers when you didn't need to. It could have just been a simple Super Skrull 4-power on 4-power fight. You didn't have to do that, Fury. You didn't. And that's like the biggest sin, maybe, of this entire finale, is that it made Fury look like just an absolute asshole, man. Because, like, he leaves at the very end of the series, right? At the end with his wife, Vara. They go back up to Saber. But he completely ignores the fact that even though they avoided a nuclear holocaust, they avoided World War III. Because of what the president said, now we have basically race riots, right? We have humans going after Skrulls, Skrulls going after humans. just violence and chaos. Like, you avoided a nuclear holocaust, right? But now you've left the state of the world in 1960s America. That's what you've done. But Fury just, goes off with his wife, goes back up to Saber, like, yep, the job's done. Fury, no, the job is not done. You still have some shit you have to clean up here, okay? But, I mean, I can't with that, man. I can't. And then also, what reason was there for Fury to go to the hospital to talk to Ritson? He didn't need to go. He needed to go there. He didn't. Like, all you needed was Sonya there, right? Who, again, oh my God, all of it's going through my mind. It's making me mad. It is making me upset thinking about it. They had that Mexican standoff where, Fury is aiming at Ritson is aiming at Fury, and then Sonya has Skrull Rhodey with a gun to his head, and, Fury is telling Ritson to call off the attack or whatever was going to happen at that point, and trying to convince him that Rhodey was a Skrull. There was no need for any of that, because, like, an episode prior, or 2 episodes prior, Sonya shot a dude to show that he was a Skrull. Shot him in, like, the thigh, right? An episode before that, she cut off a dude's finger to show that he was a Skrull. So what purpose was there to have that standoff when all Sonya could have did was, like, shot Rhodey in the toe, shot his finger off or something, shoot him somewhere non-lethally to show the president that he was a Skrull? Why didn't she do that? If she did that, all would have been fine. Fury would not have, he was not necessary to be there. But I feel like in that last episode, in the last couple episodes, the show just completely forgot a lot of what they had already set up prior. And it was just so shocking to see the state of that finale, to see what happened to that show that was legitimately on the way of being my favorite MCU show of all time. I was perplexed. I was flabbergasted. I was just, when it hit the credits, man, I was just like, it was that meme of, I can't believe you've done this. Like, that's what it was for me. I can't believe you've done this, Marvel. And at that point, I was just like, you know what, man? I think I'm good on the Marvel shows. I really think I am. I think they need to, like, just stop. I mean, they have no choice but to stop now with the strikes. So, like, they should use this time to just stop, look in the mirror, and be like, what are we doing with these shows? What is the problem with these shows? They all have this through line of the 6 episodes. By the time you get to, like, episode 5 and 6, you have to rush through everything because it's only 6 episodes. And then a lot of those episodes in that show are short, like 35 minutes. Like, y'all remember when they first unveiled, their plan to do these shows, and they were talking about Falcon Winter Soldier, and I was going to be like, yeah, it's going to be, 6 hours of content spread out, cut out. It's really not the case with these shows, right? Like, these 6 episode shows, it's more like 4.5 hours, if that. Like, they are not utilizing to the best of their ability the time that they have with these shows. Like, that's the whole point of television. That's the big thing that television has over movies. Time. You have time. With movies, it can't be too long, right? Like, 2.5 hours max. If you go 3 hours, man, you're pushing it. You better hope your stuff is really, really good. You better hope your film is really, really good to be 3 hours. Like Oppenheimer. Like, Oppenheimer was 3 hours long, and at certain points, I did feel the length. Pause. But I was like, I'm really enjoying what I'm watching, so it doesn't matter to me. Even Endgame was like that. It was really good for 3 hours, man. But with TV, you have the privilege of, you can pace out how many episodes you're doing, how long each episode is, so that you have enough time to tell your story. Keeping it down to 6 episodes, with, like, maybe the first 2 being 50 minutes, the second one being somewhere in the 40 range, and then the rest of them being like 30 to 35. Who is that helping? It's certainly not helping you, okay, or the story you're trying to tell. It's hampering the story. And all the shows do this. Even the ones that are 9 episodes, which was what? WandaVision and She-Hulk, right? Like the She-Hulk finale sped through it. Like it was a mad dash to finish that thing. And I know all those episodes were already, short. They were half hour, comedy, legal stuff. But like even that, it just felt like they really rushed to end that and wrap it up. Like it was supposed to be 10 episodes, but they cut it down to 9. I'm just like, Marvel, you need to understand how TV works, right? Bob Iger, even though that man is a piece of garbage with how, he's talking about the strikes, right? When he went on record and said that the MCU, Marvel, they jumped into TV without truly understanding it, he was right. Look at the shows. He was right. Even the good ones, the ones that are actually really good, all suffer from that same problem of they don't know how to properly tell these stories, that they don't know how to properly give them time to tell these stories, right? Like the arbitrary 6-episode limit, it's got to go. It has to. Like look at The Mandalorian, right? Those things are solid 8 episodes. It feels like the stories are perfectly paced and built. Like, yeah, you might have some side quest episodes, but by the end of it, it doesn't feel like they went into a mad dash to end the whole thing. No. Like, these shows could be 8 episodes. They really should. Or just however many episodes you need to tell the story. Whether that be 8, whether that be 10, 13, however many episodes you need, man. Don't limit yourself. Like, I want to know who at Marvel, who at Disney is going 6 episodes. That is a hard limit. 6. That's all you get. Maybe 9, but 6. Who's doing that? And tell them to stop. Like, even Daredevil Born Again, right? 18 episodes, which is like, wow, it was a big, wow, 18. Finally, they're not doing the 6-episode thing anymore. But even that, I'm wary about. Like, I don't even trust that. Because from what I understand, they're going to be breaking the episodes into like arcs. So like they're not going to release all 18, or they're not going to go 18, where it's 1 a week. It'll be like you'll get like 3 episodes here this week, and then like some time 3 episodes here. We're going to like unleash the episodes in little arc installments. At least that's what I understand is what they're going to do. But even that, I'm like 18 episodes, yeah, sure. But watch a lot of the episodes be super short. And watch by the end, they're going to do a mad dash to end it. Because so far, that's what they've... For all of like what? Maybe Loki is the only one whose finale didn't feel like that. Like Loki, yeah, Loki's finale, because it was just a bunch of exposition with He Who Remains. So like it didn't feel rushed. It was just like they allowed that exposition to breathe. But all the other shows, man, like Falcon Winter Soldier, even Ms. Marvel, it's just like, man, these shows have such promise. They do. But like, I don't understand what the problem is. They have to look in the mirror at themselves and figure this out. They do. Like, they all have their individual problems, man. Falcon Winter Soldier, as great as the buddy cop dynamic is with Bucky and Sam, Zemo being a meme machine and being hilarious, like all that stuff, the Isaiah Bradley stuff, beautiful. But the Flag Smashers, not good villains, Sharon Carter, the whole power broker reveal at the end, it was just not good. Look at Hawkeye, like I said, the whole Kingpin stuff. And even then, like, we understand the deleted scenes that they had that could have given more time to Echo with Kingpin, with Hawkeye in his childhood and stuff. Like, even that show felt like they were rushing. And then some of the comedy was a little bit too far. Like at the end, where Yelena is out to kill Clint. And Kate Bishop knows this, but yet they have to play, handsies in the elevator trying to hit the buttons. It's just like, dude, you're not taking this seriously, right? Like Moon Knight, ironically, had an identity crisis. That was its main problem, is that it didn't know whether it wanted to be a serious character study or a superhero show. Like I could go on, man. All these shows, they have a problem, and Marvel they need to figure it out, man. They absolutely need to figure it out. So yeah, Secret Invasion, like, I don't even know what to rate it, because it was so good for so long, and then it just fell apart. Like, I feel like some shows, right, can be average, and then, they have a whatever finale, and it's fine. But like, if you're a show where it's very good, like it's really good, and then your finale is just bad, that stuff sticks with people, man. Like, look at Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, phenomenal show up until that last season, up until that finale, and now that's its entire legacy, is that finale and how bad it was, right? Like Dexter, right? So good for so long, and then even with Dexter, like, a decline started after like season 5, but that last season, that last finale, it was just so bad that they had to come back and do another show just to fix it. And you're not going to get that with Marvel. You're not. Like, this is Secret Invasion's legacy, is this finale. Like, I saw that it has like a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, that last episode. Like, looking online, even people who are generally, really excited about Marvel, they seem to like almost everything Marvel does. Even they're going online, they're like, dude, that was not good. Like, the vast majority of the online fandom hate that episode. And it's like, I hope Marvel looks at that and they're just like, okay, we really need to fix it now. Like, we really need to change up how we're doing things. Because, like, that has to be the loudest negative reception to any Marvel show they've done so far. Like, not counting, like the trolls and the incels with She-Hulk, but like genuinely, that Secret Invasion finale, so many people are just like, nah, they just slapped us in the face. Like, what was that? Like, that's going to stick with people. It's going to stick with people for a while, man. It is. So yeah, ranking wise, I don't know, man. I have to give that, like, out of 5, like, because of that ending, like a 2.5, maybe 3, but I don't know. I'll probably do one of these days a ranking of all the MCU shows so far. I'll have to give some thought to that. But let's move on, shall we, to something else that came out today. I talked about it earlier. I hinted at it. It was the Lando show. Got it right here on my phone. This article, courtesy of Variety. All right, let's go in here and read this bad boy. I didn't read it. I saw it. I was like, okay, let's do it. So, courtesy of Variety, Donald Glover and brother Steven to write Lando series at Disney Plus as Justin Simien exits. Brothers Donald and Steven Glover have signed on to write Lucasfilm's Lando series for Disney Plus. Variety has confirmed. News first broke of a Lando Calrissian limited series being in the works in December 2020. Oh my God. It's been that long. 2020. And we've heard nothing about it until now. That's crazy. At the time, Dear White People creator Justin Simien was attached to the project. Though it would seem he's no longer attached, as Variety has been told the Glover brothers will be writing the series alone. Simien most recently directed Disney's Haunted Mansion, which is scheduled for a July 28 release. That'll be today. The deal was reached prior to the writer's strike. Gotcha. Okay, because that did cross my mind. Let's see here. Originally played by Billy D. Williams in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Donald first stepped into the role in Ron Howard's 2018 Star Wars prequel movie Solo, which also showed the younger version of Han Solo, played by Alden Ehrenreich. Now, pause here for me. I never saw Solo. I didn't. Like, I was not interested in it at all. And from what everyone says about it, or at least a lot of people say about it, it was not all that great. It wasn't. I know some people who absolutely love it, but I kind of dodged a bullet with that one, right? And in that regard, I have no basis. I have no opinion on Donald Glover's Lando because I didn't go see the movie. I didn't watch him in the role. So I don't know. Like, I've heard a lot of people say he was like the highlight of that movie, excuse me. But also I've heard some people like they weren't exactly feeling his Lando either. So I have no idea. All I know is Donald Glover is great. So I will probably check this series out because He's great. The Atlanta alum opened up about his return to the role in April, admitting that he was in talks with Lucasfilms about the possibility. I would love to play Lando again. It's a fun time being him. It just has to be the right way to do it. Time is precious. The past couple of years, this pandemic shit, it really had people experience time. People realize their time is valuable. You only get so much. I'm not interested in doing anything that's going to be a waste of my time or just a paycheck. I'd much rather spend time with people that I enjoy. It just has to be the right thing, and I think it could be. Lando was definitely somebody I like to hang out with, he told GQ. So, that is one thing that it kind of has me interested in this show now, is the fact that he and his brother are writing the show. Because, from what I understand, they are the writers of, they're the head writers of Atlanta, which I've heard nothing but good things about, and I've been meaning to check it out. So, if they're writing this, if they're taking point on writing this show, I kind of have a little more faith in this show. When it comes to the Star Wars shows, so far it's been a bit of an up and down thing. I think it's been mostly good, right? The Mandalorian, obviously the first 2 seasons, phenomenal. This last season, season 3, very divisive, I know that, but I genuinely enjoyed what they went into with the Mandalorian culture. It was not perfect at all, but I was definitely digging what they were doing with that, and I enjoyed it. Obi-Wan Kenobi, another divisive show, which I think, again, not perfect. The Reva stuff was very irritating. It was just it seemed like they were really forcing that character's story into this, and the writing just was not as good as it could have been. If the writing was better for Reva and her story, I would have no problems with that. But everything else, I enjoyed. Everything that was just Obi-Wan and Anakin, Obi-Wan and Vader, phenomenal. That was good stuff, man. As someone who grew up on the prequels, as a prequel boy, it hit me in so many of the right places, man. I was just yes, this is what I've been wanting ever since the end of the prequels, man. I've been wanting to see more stuff about Obi-Wan and Vader, and we got it, So overall, I enjoyed Kenobi for the most part, right? Andor, a show that seems to have universal praise, right? I started watching it when it came out. I believe I got to the 3rd episode, and I was just this is moving way too slow for me. It feels like we're not really moving ahead here, and I just stopped watching it as it was premiering. So I waited until all the episodes were out on Disney Plus, and I just sort of binged them all, and I found myself enjoying it more once the 4th or 5th episode really kicked in. I was okay, now I'm in. Now I'm in this, this spy thriller, political thriller type of deal going on with the rebels, the beginning of the rebels, or not the beginning. I don't think it was the beginning of the rebels, because that was a little bit before Rogue One, but it was showing how Andor came to join the rebels, right? Having Saw Gerrera and everything in there, and just it was really good. It's funny because Secret Invasion was supposed to be Marvel's Andor, and that was just absolutely not. You know what? I hate to go back to Secret Invasion for a minute, but I did bring up Andor, so it's kind of appropriate. People were calling Secret Invasion Marvel's Andor for a while, and I thought after that first episode, yeah, this is definitely Marvel's Andor. But imagine if in Andor, at the very end, in the finale, all of a sudden, just a bunch of Jedis showed up, and it just became a big Jedi lightsaber battle. What was that? Fly. Imagine if that happened, right? I don't know how I would have felt. Some people, because they just love lightsabers, some people just watch Star Wars for the lightsabers. They would obviously love it, right? Me, I would have been dude, what have you done to this show for what it has been? That's how I felt with Secret Invasion. Anyway, I didn't mean to backtrack there to that. But yeah, the Star Wars shows, I definitely think, because there's been so few of them. Oh, I forgot Boba Fett. How could I forget Boba Fett? I know some of you might want to forget Boba Fett, because a lot of people don't like the Boba Fett show. I enjoyed it for the most part. There were some things, man, the kids on the colorful Power Ranger scooters, that was a bit much, right? I know a lot of people took issue with the Mandalorian episode where it just became the Mandalorian episode with Luke and all them and Ahsoka. Like, certain people had problems with that. But like me, I always rationalized it as taking the title of the show, The Book of Boba Fett, like literally. Where it's just like, this is just a chapter in the Book of Boba Fett. Like, I'm currently reading or listening to the Thrawn Star Wars audiobook, right? The first canon one that Timothy Zahn had wrote after, Disney bought Star Wars and all that stuff. And like, it has chapters where it's not about Thrawn, it's about someone else. It's a character from Rebels. I can't remember her name. Arinda Price. Yeah, like there's certain chapters it's just devoted solely to her, right? So I kind of look at Boba Fett in the same way. It's just like, that was just a Mandalorian chapter there. Now, you could argue that maybe they should have did that in other episodes, but then the show would have been way longer than it was. It was already like 7 episodes, right? So you probably would need it like 10 if you want to have individual episodes about other characters. But I digress. I, for the most part, enjoyed that show. I do think that we need to go back to ruthless Boba Fett. I get that he's an old man. He's kind of mellowed out. But I would like to have more of a ruthless Boba Fett back. And even Tamir Morrison has said so. That's the crazy thing about that show. Tamir Morrison has came out multiple times saying that he feels like the Boba Fett show kind of, I don't want to say neutered, but like it definitely brought Boba down. It mellowed him out. But like he wants Boba to go back to being like a real badass again. And I couldn't agree more. I want Boba back. I thought that in Mandalorian season 3, I figured that he would have showed up, since they were going back to Mandalore, they were bringing all the Mandalorians together, and we know from the Mandalorian season 2 that he is now a Mandalorian because his dad Jango was a foundling. So like I thought, yeah, bring in Boba Fett, but they didn't. And Tamir Morrison, like I love Tamir Morrison, just doesn't care. Like he's constantly talking about the stuff where he's just like, I want to play Boba again. Like, when am I going to be brought back as Boba? I feel like they're not bringing me back as Boba. And I'm with him, man. Bring Boba back. He should have been in that last season, right? Like, bring him back. When it comes time for Dave Filoni's movie, have him in there. If he's not in there, that's ridiculous. Now, I know the reports came out like months ago that Tamir Morrison was coming back as Rex in Ahsoka. That might potentially be happening, which I'm all for that. Ahsoka is a show that I am just, my body's ready for that. Like, when the Obi-Wan Kenobi show was first announced, that was like, yeah, this is my show. This is for me, right? Ahsoka's another one. I'm just like, this is for me. I feel like this is for me because I'm such a fan of the character, from Clone Wars to Rebels. And then the fact that Ahsoka is basically kind of acting as a Rebels season, like, how many seasons did they go to? Just 3? Or was it 4? Like, it's acting as like an extra season of Rebels, and I love that. So like, I cannot wait to see Ahsoka. It looks phenomenal. R.I.P. to Ray Stevenson, man. And obviously getting to see Thrawn in live action. Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn. Even though I don't think he's going to be in it for very long, I feel like we might get him in the same capacity as we had Moff Gideon in the last season of Mandalorian. Like, he might show up for like 2 episodes, but that's it. But then again, that's probably all you need because he's likely going to be the villain of Filoni's movie, of the Heir to the Empire movie, which it's totally going to be called that. We know, right? It's going to be called Heir to the Empire. They're going to do their own version of Heir to the Empire that's canon now, and it's going to be phenomenal. It is. At least you would hope so. Like, Filoni has not let me down yet. He has not. And I don't believe he's going to let me down here with Ahsoka. That would be ridiculous. Like, Ahsoka is his baby, his creation. He's not going to let us down with Ahsoka. He's not. But yeah, Lando. Getting back to Lando. I'm curious as to what that's going to be about. Because I guess there's like a lot we don't know about Lando. So I'm guessing it would be after Solo, which is a possibility. Like, maybe it'll show him becoming what was he on Bespin? Like, whatever rank he had on Bespin, whatever his position was. Like, maybe it's gonna show that. Like, that might be like the finale is like him being on Bespin. Maybe you could do that. Like, I don't know what like the tone of a Lando show would be. Like Andor, obviously you get that like political thriller type, tone. But I don't know about Lando. I don't know what tone that could be, what genre that can be. Just a lot of shenanigans, a lot of debauchery, maybe. But yeah, man, Star Wars shows are definitely in a better place than Marvel shows right now. Like, we have what's that, Skeleton Crew? Does Skeleton Crew come out this year? Does it come out this year? I'm gonna look it up right now. You know what? Why ask these questions and not have them answered when you have Google, which can answer everything, as we know? Let's see. Skeleton Crew. Star Wars Skeleton Crew. It just says 2023. It doesn't actually have like a release date on it. Let me see. Yeah, in 2023. It's expected to be released in November or December. Now, who knows that's actually going to happen with the strikes? Because like certain like shows and movies, like they're talking about delaying them because they want to have the actors available to promote it. And like Skeleton Crew is definitely something that you're going to want to have your actors there to promote, because like it's not an established like IP name, like it's not Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's not Ahsoka, it's not Lando or anything like that, or even Andor, who people would know from Rogue One. It's like Skeleton Crew. What does that mean? Like what is the point of it? Even though it's supposed to be like one of the shows that are going to really tie into Filoni's movie, I feel like you need to have your cast there to promote that thing, or else people are not going to watch it. It might go the way of Secret Invasion, where the viewership is just really low. So who knows what's going to be going on with that. So yeah, Lando, looking forward to it. I'm not really looking forward to it, but I'm like intrigued by it. I'm actually probably going to watch it. I don't think I was going to watch it before, but knowing that Glover and his brother are actually writing the show, that's actually very interesting, very intriguing for me. Now, on this podcast, Great Talkability, like I said, I'm going to discuss all things pop culture, including wrestling. So if you're a wrestling fan, stick around for right now, because I'm about to talk about something. I'm going to talk about something that it has taken over wrestling Twitter, and that is the state of the AEW women's division, right? Oh boy, where do I even start with that? Because I am not someone who even really watches AEW. Like, I don't. Like, I'll watch certain matches that get, rave praise and reviews, right? But generally, like, AEW is not a promotion that I typically enjoy. Now, some people might hear me say that and be like, oh, you're just a WWE shill, you're a WWE fanboy. No, I just know what I enjoy, all right? I typically enjoy WWE, the Fed, as they love to call them, right? I don't really enjoy AEW all that much. So why would I watch something that I don't enjoy? That's just common sense, right? But I have paid loose attention to AEW's woes in their women's division in terms of how they're treating them. And I'm just like, what is going on over there, Tony? Like what are you doing, man? Like, if you're going to be a wrestling promotion in North America, you need to have a strong women's division. You need to book them properly. Like, this is not New Japan, where like culturally over there, they didn't have a women's division. It's just New Japan with the dudes. And then, if you want to go watch women's wrestling, some fantastic women's wrestling, you go watch Stardom and some of these other promotions. It's not like that over here in the States. It's not. It is not. And this whole outrage, or like this whole debate, this whole, I guess you could say, conversation over AEW's women's division spawned from Dynamite on Wednesday, where the only women's match on the card was Britt Baker and was it Taya Valkyrie? And it was under 10 minutes. And then they focus on a sign in the crowd that says, "Book your women's division better." And it's so appropriate, man. It's the truth. Like, they don't treat their women with like the same degree of respect as I feel WWE does in terms of just exposure. Like, from what I understand, on any given week of AEW, you're going to have one women's match, one women's segment. That's all you get. And it makes no sense. Because, like, now they have, like, 5 hours of television between Dynamite and Collision. So, like, why aren't you properly, creating stories for your women and having them out there in TV? Not just even wrestling, right? But just showing the movement of their stories. Like, look at WWE, right? They have on Raw, even on NXT, but like Raw and SmackDown, they have stories, multiple women's stories going on. You have, Shayna and Ronda, right? You got that. You got Rhea and Raquel, Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville as tag champions now. Becky and Trish and Zoe Stark, all that. What else? What else do you have? You have on SmackDown you have Bianca, Asuka, and Charlotte together, their story. You have Bailey and Io and the Shotzi stuff. You have there's so many women's segments and stories going on in WWE that it just puts AEW to shame, and it just makes you think about what is the reason that AEW is not doing the same. Like, what is it in Tony Khan's booking, philosophy that says one women's match, one women's segment, that's all you get? Like, what is it? And it can't be analytics, because, like, I know Tony's an analytics guy, but him having, what's his name? Jungle Boy, Jack Perry. Like, I looked it up. His segments are not ratings draws. They're not. So it's not an analytics thing. What is it, Tony? Like, it's absolutely mind-boggling. It's 4 years. 4 years. Now, look, I've been saying this since, like, maybe year 2, that AEW's women's division is not that great. But it seems like it's taken people 4 years to finally realize that, And the whole thing of the Outcasts, right? That was, like, one of the things I was, one of the stories that I was paying attention to. It was like, okay, we got, like, this sort of outsiders, WCW, NWO type of story going on with the women who came from WWE, Saraya, I forgot how you pronounce her name, I'm sorry, Ruby and Tony, right? And then, like, they're taking on the homegrown talent, and it was like this big, it's gonna be this big thing, but, like, that story has kind of been with the same people, and it hasn't expanded. Like, I feel like Jade Cargill would have been the perfect person to throw into that mix, because she is, like, the premier homegrown AEW women's wrestler. She is. But, like, it felt like that story just didn't expand. They didn't treat it with the same level of attention as, like, not even necessarily like the actual NWO story, but, like, just any story that has many featured segments, right? That has a bunch of featured segments on TV. It had, like, the same amount of women on it in that story. It didn't grow. It didn't expand. It felt like they've been spinning their wheels. It's crazy, right? It is absolutely crazy. And you want to know the craziest part about that, about the state of AEW's women's division, is that, from what I understand, on Ring of Honor, their women's matches go hard. Their women's segments, like, they treat their women great on Ring of Honor. And it's all owned by Tony Khan. So what is going on? What is going on? Like, I heard that, Athena has been tearing it up as their women's champ, right? Then they just, like, some women's match just main evented, like, a Ring of Honor show. It's just like, bro, how are you booked? Like, is there someone completely different in charge of Ring of Honor than Tony Khan? Like, what's going on? I don't get it. I don't understand it. AEW, they've got some, they got some problems to fix there. I don't know, man. It's just, like, I'll gladly stick with WWE in terms of their women's division. Even that's not perfect, right? It's not perfect. You could argue that you don't like the stories, that the stories they are telling with the women is not good, right? But you can't argue the fact that they're featuring them. They are. In the words of CM Punk, tell me when I'm telling lies. In the words of Bobby Fish, folks, where's the lie? Where's the lie? I don't know, man. I don't know. But listen, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I have a busy day ahead of me, but I just wanted to get this first episode of Great Talkability off the ground so that you people can know what to expect. What's in store week to week. You know, when I just sit down in this chair and talk to you guys about, as my dog barks in the background, to talk about everything that's going on in the world of wrestling and anime. I'll get to anime stuff eventually, of movies, TV, comics, all that good stuff. You know, this first episode, obviously not perfect. Let's be honest with us. Look. Let me be honest with you. I'm doing this by the skin of my teeth here. Okay, this is just how I am. This is just gonna be me in my raw form of how I do things, right? And of course, as I get, reps, it'll get better. Maybe. Don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to that at all. But yeah, I had fun just talking to you guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed it though. And I hope you guys come back week after week to hear me just ramble and talk about the things of pop culture, Once again, I'm Darius the Great, and thank you for tuning in to Great Talkability.